The Nations League is back with a crazy new format, and I'm gonna predict the whole thing. All divisions, plus every playoff and the entire Nations League finals, including who'll host them. Group D1 is identical to one from 2 seasons ago, and I think the teams will finish in that order again, since the power dynamic between the 3 nations remains largely similar. Also, Gibraltar benefit from having had the same manager for several years. Gibraltar were terrible in the Euro qualifiers even by their standards, but they've proven capable of beating minnows. San Marino showed signs of improvements in the Euro qualifiers by scoring in 3 consecutive matches, but I'm still unconvinced. I value Gibraltar's legacy over microstates more. Oh, and if you're curious about the outcome of specific matches, scorelines and such, ask in the comments. Moldova is the odd one out in Group D2. They will easily finish in first, especially given the improvements shown in the Euro 2024 qualifiers, which also saw Andorra obtain 2 points, a huge amount by minnow standards. Still, I rate Malta's narrow losses higher than anything Andorra accomplished, due to the vast difference in strength between their groups. That's it for League D. Time for League C. Right, Sweden are in League C. I almost forgot. Given our terrible form and how good Slovakia have become, the Slovaks are favorites to top the group despite Sweden being stronger on paper. I really like what Francesco Calzona has done with Slovakia. Azerbaijan did beat us 3-0 in the Euro qualifiers. But even if they sensationally win again, our point tally will be higher over the course of an entire group phase. However, I think a weaker team like Azerbaijan can benefit from Fernando Santos' quite cynical tactics. Yes, Fernando Santos is their manager now, did you forget? Estonia's success in the 2024 Baltic Cup under the newly appointed Jürgen Henn doesn't prove anything. They will finish dead last, having lost twice to both Sweden and Azerbaijan in the Euro qualifiers. Romania merely qualifying for the last Euros make them undisputed favorites to win this group. They actually just got a new manager though, but unless it's Greg Berhalter, the Romanians will finish in first. The second strongest team, Kosovo, finished 11 whole points behind Romania in the Euro qualifiers. But Kosovo, aided by a big diaspora of players, will also have a chance to win promotion in the playoffs. Lithuania have improved since their horrific 2022-23 Nations League campaign, while Cyprus have declined a bit. The Lithuanians will avoid finishing last. Group C3 is really tricky to predict. Luxembourg has improved tremendously these last years, and has been led by Luke Holtz since 2010. Still, Northern Ireland's current form makes them my narrow favourites to win the group, though part of me is a bit worried it's just a red herring, so to speak. But I am aware that this is one of my more controversial predictions. Bulgaria are bad, but their baby steps in the right direction makes me favour them over Belarus, especially given their lack of home advantage. By League C standards, Belarus were actually quite decent in the Euro qualifiers, but I'm gonna trust my gut. I favour Bulgaria's trajectory more. Despite underperforming in the last Nations League season, North Macedonia's Euro qualifying campaign and recent competitive accomplishments make them favourites to win Group C4. Armenia will finish in last if they can keep up what was shown in the Euro qualifiers. Latvia are slightly less terrible than the Faroe Islands, whom they edged out in the 2024 Baltic Cup. Let's move on to League B. Group B1 is the only one in League B that exclusively features teams who participated at Euro 2024. Georgia found the most success at that tournament, but they don't have the consistency to manage that throughout an entire league phase. Ukraine were extremely unlucky not to advance on 4 points, and their performance in a highly competitive Euro qualifying group make them close favorites to be promoted in first, despite never playing with real home advantage. Albania and Czechia were equally good in the Euro qualifiers, and the power dynamic between them has not changed since then. My money is on Albania to obtain 1 more point, since Silvinho is a better manager, though Ivan Hasek isn't terrible. Czechia were absurdly unlucky at the last Euros. They're not a bad team. England are of course overwhelming favourites to win Group B2, despite their somewhat uncertain managerial situation. However, Lee Carsley is a reasonable interim choice, having experience with England's youth teams. He's not bad, and England are just miles ahead of the competition in this group. Newly promoted Greece were very unlucky to get such a difficult Euro qualifying group, where they proved to be stronger than Ireland, whom they'll face again here. The Greeks' bad luck will run out, and they'll clinch the runner-up spot after years in a slump. Finland will finish above Ireland given recent performances. However, it will be interesting to see if the completely newly appointed Hallgrimsson can make the Irish exceed my expectations. Ralf Rangnick's tactics and Austria's solid squad makes them the best team in Group B3. Norway certainly have the players to compete for the top spot, but Solbakken's underwhelming managerial skills means they won't reach their ceiling. I even favor Slovenia since they've developed such a solid identity under Maciej Kek's second stint in charge. Kazakhstan have become a lot better in these last years, but this group is too competitive for them to finish anywhere except 4th. Almost anything can happen in Group B4. Turkey had a good Euro campaign and were slightly better than Wales in the qualifiers. The Turks will win this group if they keep up their momentum, though they are notoriously unpredictable. Wales are in a transitional period, but should be able to finish in 2nd. Montenegro were overall better than Iceland in the Euro qualifiers, but then Iceland hammered Israel in the playoffs to complicate my predictions. Israel isn't exactly a football powerhouse, especially without home advantage, but to just brush them aside 4-1 isn't something any team can do. My gut says Iceland finish 3rd at Montenegro's expense. Finally time for League A. Though Portugal were mediocre at the last Euros, they've proven more than any other Group A1 team. Croatia is a similar story, but when it comes to the runner-up spot, though Zlatko Dalic is not a bad manager. It's worth noting Croatia defeated Portugal in a recent friendly, but I still fancy the Portuguese over an entire league phase due to the greater consistency required. Poland have shown solid improvements since the appointment of Probierz, while Steve Clarke's Scotland have headed in the opposite direction despite being good in the Euro qualifiers. Their current trajectories favor Poland more. Israel is by far the weakest team in Group A2. I'd be surprised if they obtain a single point. France didn't live up to their potential at the last Euros, despite reaching the semis, but Belgium and Italy are in worse slumps, so Le Bleu should be able to clinch the top spot. It will be interesting to see if Deschamps has more to offer. On current form, it's a coin toss whether the Belgians or Italians finish in 2nd. Historically and recently, Italy is a bogey team for Belgium, but my gut, which is never wrong, says the Belgians break that trend now. Tedesco has a lot to prove, but Spalletti hasn't exactly been better as Italy's boss. Bosnia and Herzegovina are by miles the worst team in Group A3. They were tragically terrible in the Euro qualifiers. However, the recent matches against Italy and England under the newly appointed Sergei Barbares mark baby steps in the right direction, despite being losses. Hungary are tough to assess. They were amazing in the last Nations League season, but disappointed at the Euros. My money is on the Hungarians to comfortably finish in 3rd. I marginally fancy Germany to win the group since they beat the Dutch in a friendly earlier this year, but there's hardly anything separating them. As reigning Nations League and Euro champions, Spain will top Group A4. La Roja are just miles ahead of their competitors, tactically and player-wise. Switzerland should finish in second if they can keep up their Euro form, especially given Denmark's underwhelming period and Serbia's notorious inconsistency, which also makes me favor the Danes over the Serbs, even though nothing split them at the Euros. Now on to the newly introduced playoffs. League D versus League C, League C versus League B, League B versus League A, and most notably the quarterfinals, which decide the 4 teams that will participate in the finals. There's been managerial changes since Malta sensationally battered Cyprus in 2021. Cyprus should be able to edge out a win over 2 fixtures. Belarus have what it takes to defeat Minnows Liechtenstein twice, though not by a huge scoreline. Hopefully Solbakken will be sacked in time for these playoffs. Either way, Norway should beat Kosovo home and away. Though the Finns should win in Helsinki, their recent terrible away record means Luxembourg's home game will ruin Finland's aggregate goal difference. Czechia edged out Armenia in a friendly earlier this year. They should be able to replicate that feat over 2 fixtures. Sweden should beat Iceland on aggregate. Should! That's where I'm gonna leave this. Greece are extremely unlucky to face Italy. They will manage a draw in Athens, but unfortunately for the Greeks, the Italians will win in their return fixture. Poland are slowly moving in the right direction after a terrible, albeit ultimately successful, Euro qualifying campaign. But I think Slovenia is the more complete team overall, despite being weaker on paper. Albania and Hungary both have clear identities and good managers. Their current trajectories makes me favor the Albanians. I see Wales edging out Denmark in Cardiff, but being brushed aside in the return fixture. Despite Denmark's slump, they are stronger on paper and a real bogey team for Wales. For similar reasons, Portugal should edge out the Netherlands, despite being far from tactically optimized. Switzerland cannot be underestimated and definitely have the capability to cause an upset, like at Euro 2020, but France has a higher ceiling and should win over 2 legs. The big Croatian diaspora in Germany means Croatia effectively won't play away in this 2-legged tie. However, following Germany's improvements under Nagelsmann and Croatia's slight decline, the Germans should advance. But if there was an upset in these quarterfinals, this is the tie I see it happening in, even more so than Switzerland against France. Belgium are in a transitional period, Spain is the best team in Europe, they should win. I realize I haven't really gone with a lot of upsets here, and there were a lot of upsets last season in the Nations League, but not really the season before that one. So it's really hard to know like when you should go for upsets and when you shouldn't. We'll see what happens. Now, finally, on to the Nations League finals, but first things first, where will they be played? UEFA have already announced the host requirements. Every team in League A that meets these demands has to submit a bid to host the finals. When the league phase is over, UEFA will select 1 set of quarterfinalists capable of organizing the finals, with the winner becoming the host. Taking all of this into account, as of making this video, the following countries could theoretically host the 2025 finals. However, assuming my predictions come true, Poland and Scotland are eliminated from hosting contention since they won't qualify for the finals. With the quarterfinals resulting from the mock draw based on my predictions, UEFA would either pick this one or this one. I lean towards the latter, since Belgium or Spain haven't hosted the finals before. Spain is the reigning champion of both the Nations League and the Euros. Do they really need home advantage too? Oh well, at long last it's time to predict the finals. The finals begin with an exciting Iberian derby. Despite Portugal's powerful squad, they haven't beaten Spain in a competitive match in over 2 decades, and the Spaniards are definitely better now, especially their manager. If this wasn't enough, La Roja has home advantage. Long story short, Germany has defeated France twice in these last 11 months, and there's nothing that indicates the power dynamic between them has changed. Nagelsmann's Germany will be victorious unless Deschamps has another managerial gear. We all of course remember the nail-biter between Portugal and France at the Euros that finished 0-0, and who could forget their mouth-watering goalless draw 2 Nations League seasons ago. Hopefully this game will be something more akin to their Euro 2020 encounter, but I think a single French goal will be the decider. The final is a rematch of an exciting Euro 2024 battle that was ultimately won by Spain on German soil. The Spaniards should win in 90 minutes with home advantage, becoming the first team to ever defend their Nations League title. And if you want to help me defend my title as the most watched YouTube channel, yeah, totally, I recommend you check out these videos. What a marvelous transition, it wasn't forced at all or anything.